Hello, Trail Seeker, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. I am so excited for you to hear today's episode. I feel like everyone should listen to at least the first 20 minutes. Oh my gosh, Meg's story is amazing and so inspirational. If you're struggling with health problems, if you have a family member that's struggling with health problems, get them to listen to this. I'm really excited to impart this information because we have to get this out there. People need to know that there's a way for them to heal their body using food that almost looks miraculous. The results are it's almost a miracle. The science is there and it's been proven. So really enjoy today's episode. Please share it with those you love. Now, Meg is gifting one of the listeners a $169 package. And so you can go to the Learn True Health Facebook group for the next week or so. We're going to have a post after I publish this. We'll have a post in the Learn True Health Facebook group, and you can comment and you can get a chance to win a $169 package of whole food, plant-based, delicious food that'll be shipped to you for free. And so one of our listeners is going to win that. Now, Meg is giving all of the listeners $15 off. So you can use coupon code LTH on her website, MamaSezz.com. That's MAMASEZZ.com. You can also look in the show notes of today's podcast as all the links to what Meg does is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast at LearnTrueHealth.com. So get the $15 off coupon using the coupon code LTH. Excellent. And be sure to go to the Facebook group for your chance to win this beautiful package that Meg is gifting us. Thank you so much for being a listener. I'm so excited to get this information out there. I can't wait to hear what you guys think of this episode after you listen to it, and then come into the Facebook group and let us know what you think. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 411. I am so excited for today's show. We have on with us Meg Donahue, and she's the co-founder of MamaSezz.com, a national plant-based meal delivery and lifestyle company. MamaSezz is MAMASEZZ.com. I love your website, actually. It's really cute, and all the food looks so delicious. So I'm really excited to talk to you today about starting a company focusing on helping people who are super busy to also eat in a healthy way. I think that's a really unique niche to get into.
Thank you, and I'm delighted to be here, Ashley. I love the work that you do.
Oh, awesome. So I'd love to just dive right into your story. You are an entrepreneur, you're a speaker, you're a writer. What happened in your life to make you want to start a plant-based meal delivery service?
It's a really good question, and it was not at all on my radar. I'll say that. I was a pretty healthy junk food, meat eating, dairy eating, grew up in farm country person. At 50, I had had my first child, and she was a preemie. And during that time, my mother, who was 80, also got sick. And I'm just giving the backstory so you can kind of have
I want the backstory.
Okay.
I'm already I'm in awe of you right now. Like you got pregnant at 49?
I did.
Wow.
And it was awesome. But at 26 weeks, I woke up in the middle of the night and my legs were just like double their size. They just like felt like somebody had taken a hose and just was like pouring water into my body. And I called my doctor, and minutes later I'm at the hospital, and I had acute preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure and edema, this massive swelling. And so I was 25 weeks at the time. And so it's a very delicate time for babies where their lungs and their eyes haven't quite developed and there's brain development. And so they said, we're just going to ship you to the local, the not regional, big hospital, Dartmouth Hitchcock here in New England, and just kind of put you in a room to be quiet and dark and ride this out as long as we can, and try and get another week and a half.
Is there a reason why the room had to be dark?
Yeah, because it was really interesting. It's when sound and light can raise your blood pressure.
Oh.
So we're just trying to be very calm. And so during this time, my family, of course, wanted to visit. My partner was with me, but there are no outside visitors. So actually, my mom was also very sick. She had congestive heart failure. She was 80 and had been kind of in and out of the hospital at that point herself. And she said to my sister, she lived 2 states away, hey, I'm going to drive to go see Meg, or you're going to take me, or I'm going to walk, so my sister said, well, I will take you. And so she showed up. And by this time I had gained in that week 65 pounds of water weight. My head was like swollen up like Dick Butkus. I don't know if you know him, but he was like a football player from the 60s. And, I had slits for eyes. It was a very intense time. So my mom was in a wheelchair and my sister brought her to the door. And I'll never forget, I looked over and she got up out of the wheelchair. And my mom, her whole life up until she got sick, had been what we would consider a really healthy profile person. She was, she played tennis, she golfed, she was active, she read, she had a lot of friends, good family life. So she had all of those elements that she wasn't overweight, she was fit looking. So prior to her getting sick and being, pretty much unable to walk more than 10 feet, she was that person. So she showed up at my hospital room door and I looked over and she got out of the wheelchair and it was like she was when she was 40 again, and that kind of vibrant energy. And she came over to me and, my head was really like a basketball and my back was so swollen and it was a nightmare. And she grabbed my hand and she leaned in and she said, you're a fighter. You're going to be okay. And your baby's going to be okay.
Oh.
Yeah. And, I didn't have any reason to believe her at all. Cause at that point, everyone was preparing for the worst things that can happen. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of them. And I did, sometimes you just believe your mom. And at that moment I did. And she went back and kind of collapsed into the wheelchair. And my sister took her out of the room and they were going to go get a cup of tea to get her and then get her back to Maine. And like moments later, my blood pressure like spiked so high. They said, no, you have to have the baby now. And so they wheeled me in and I gave birth to, by cesarean, a little over a pound preemie.
Oh.
Yeah, it's very tiny. I said, she's perfect, just very small. And so I had this baby and then I still kept getting sick. Normally preeclampsia, once you have the baby, that cures it, then you're on the mend. But I had more complications. But on top of that, my mom collapsed because all of it was just too much. So she was in the ICU. So we're on 3 different floors in the hospital.
Oh, no.
I know. It's like nuts. And we were there for 3 months. My daughter was in the NICU for 3 months. For her, she ended up doing phenomenally well. She has no residual impact of the big scary things from being a preemie. She's, tall and she's 8 now. But we were all in different like NICU, ICU, cardiac ICU for my mom. And I was in, the high risk ward for after pregnancies for a while, but we were there for 3 months. So during that time, I rented a hotel suite because it was far away from my house and would stay there. And my mom would come in and out of the hospital and stay with me. And I realized there's no way she's going home. She can't navigate her day. She can't, shop. She can't feed herself. She can't do these things. And she was just kind of rapidly going down. Mm-hmm. And so while I was up there, we renovated a garage apartment in my house. And I said, Mom, why don't you just come home with me for a while, and really what I knew, and from what doctors had said, there's nothing more we can do. She has less than 10% heart function. Her kidneys are failing. And what happens is, your lungs, because your heart can't pump fluids, and your lungs fill up, and then you have to go in and your lungs. And so it's just like this ecosystem that isn't able to, it collapses. And that was her body. And so I think she was just too weak to say no. And because it was like a separate garage apartment, it's like 500 feet from my house, because she's very proud and private, she said, okay. And we just brought her home. And the same day that I brought my little daughter Annie home, 3 months later. So I had this little preemie who was in quarantine for 2 years because her lungs were very fragile, which meant, nobody came over unless they had every shot in the, world, and Purelled themselves. And so, and then I had my mom, and my mom was not getting, she was, there were a lot of trips to the emergency room, and I'd call my brothers and sisters and I'd be like, this is it. They'd all come in, and she'd kind of just like limp along. And so one night, up feeding Annie, and I couldn't reconcile, like, how can this incredibly healthy person now at 80, all of a sudden everything goes? It just doesn't make sense. And who's survived it? And so I just researched that, who survived this level of Googled it. That was congestive heart failure. And I came across Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, who wrote the book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. You know that
I love
book.
him. I had him on the show. I just love him.
Beautiful. Yeah, he's wonderful. And, and T. Colin Campbell as well, and the work there, and a lot of other people. But Dr. Esselstyn's book, I just bought it and said, like the next day, okay, we're doing this. And so I started cooking her these meals, these very tiny, they're like bird-sized meals, whole food, plant-based. And so, soups and smoothies. And so over the course of like 4 or 5 months, she started to get better, in that she wasn't getting worse. And she could then started to walk around her apartment. And when I say apartment, it's maybe 15 by 22. It's not a big place. And then she started to walk outside, and could walk up and down our driveway. And we're saying, something's going on here. The color came back to her face, and she had been, if she went back to Maine, it was going to be hospice care, and that was that. But she had come to Vermont. So she was that level of sick. And then all of a sudden she's starting to get healthier. And then within a year, and she's 80. So then by the time she's 81, she's starting to drive again. And she joined the senior center because we were in a new state. And then she, joined the pool because she liked to swim. And so she started swimming 3 and 4 times a week. And over the course of 3 to 4 years, her heart function went from less than 10% and dropping to the low end of normal. And she's doing great. She's going to be 90 this year.
Oh my gosh, I'm crying. I'm so happy. Oh my gosh, she's still here.
She's here. She learned to play the uke. And the first thing, her big first goal, once we realized you're kind of out of the immediate woods here, it doesn't look like you're going to die next week. She said, I just want to be able to see Annie walk. And, now Annie is over at Graham's house, her little apartment, because she still lives with me, every day. And she sees her grandchildren every day. I see her every day. We have fun. She shops. She's really active. And so that whole experience, really woke me up, because I also started eating this way, because I was cooking for everyone. So everyone in my family, me, my partner, started eating this way. And I had arthritis. I was a lifelong athlete, and I had arthritis in my hips, and which is kind of like athletes, older athletes, they'll just like, oh yeah, something's going to give, the knee, the hip. And so I just had accepted it. But then I woke up one morning, and I woke up because I was not in pain. And I thought, oh my goodness, could this be the food too? And sure enough, inflammation is what causes it. So these things just like totally captivated me. And so I went to Cornell and I did their coursework on it, and I called all the doctors, and we had previously a background in natural and organic food. My partner had a very large organic bread company, and in Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and big, and we had sold that, and so thought we were out of the food business, but realized, wow, this food is miraculous in that when you go from foods that are hurting you to foods that heal, that's all you need to do. And you don't need to exercise a ton. You don't need to, all these other things you don't have to do right at the beginning to give yourself a baseline of health. And all of these illnesses that we are oddly thinking is normal, like type 2 diabetes, obesity, especially obesity in children, hypertension, other forms of heart disease, a lot of cancers are preventable or at least mitigated by just shifting your diet. And I thought, how do we not know this? So, the deeper I went in, and I wasn't too naive to the side of food that is food marketing that creates a very palatable taste profile, which is high fat, high sugar, high oil in a lot of foods. And that our food had moved from real food, which has, some salt and sodium in it, some sweet to it, to really hyper supersized palate, and that people were hooked on it. And we had actually even moved away from food. It's like the whole derivative market. You remember when the market crashed, it was all about derivatives because it was a derivative of a derivative. And that's really what our food has become. And I just got on fire that this is such a simple solution. Everybody benefits. The planet benefits, people benefit, our economy benefits because we're not crushing the healthcare system, and relationships benefit. So we started making these. We said, let's do it. Let's start making these meals, and did a lot of research for about a year to how do you get a taste profile with whole food plant-based meals. And so there's no additives, there's no preservatives in our food. There's no, which is really common in vegan foods, a lot of vegan junk food, preservatives and chemicals to give it either a taste or to keep it on your shelf longer. And we said we need to get away from that if people are really going to have our food and have the experience where their body gets to just be flooded with nutrients and thrive. And so we spent a lot of time with food scientists and chefs, and we came up with, I think, some products that they're familiar. I said, if my football playing brothers like this, then it passes. I needed them to not go like, oh, it's a salad. And we wanted to be a very open, because I came to this. I was like clueless. It's shameful how clueless I was. But I wasn't a bad person. I just didn't know. Mm-hmm. And so shaming me didn't help me. If somebody, because we had those friends who were like, oh, you're going to eat that tuna, and then wreck the whole dinner. And I said, I don't want to be that person, because I know people come to something when they're laughing and happy and they feel good. So let's create that type of company where if you're not wholly plant-based, that's fine. Just have some of this and integrate it in your life. And then for people who are sick, we're if you have a heart disease, I say don't mess around. Why would you? Just go all in, see what happens. And so we really created foods that fit anybody wherever you're entering into a plant-based, or if you've been eating vegan and plant-based your whole life, or if you're just starting, or if you have a specific illness. We tried to create a product and we curate them into bundles that will suit you. And I think it's worked out pretty well. We partnered with the American Institute for Cancer Research for people who are going through chemotherapy and treatment, because we know that having good food handy and ready-made, because our food is already made, you just have to heat and eat it, is a huge benefit when you already feel sick. We have a heart healthy bundle. We work with Dr. Esselstyn to create that.
Love it.
and we work with True North. So we pick some really key people, and then develop some bundles specifically for that. We work with I don't know if you know Dr. Jamie Delaney. She's just a rock star. She's a cardiologist, and she said she traded in her scalpel for a spatula, and she has a lifestyle medicine practice. Yeah, and she's also a Ironman athlete. And she said, there are some specific things that we need as athletes when you're plant-based that you can't always get. And so we created some custom products. We have this beet product, which I have to send you because it's like rocket fuel. You put it in your smoothie and, with a little juice and a banana, and, increases stamina. And any research on beets will tell you this, but decreases inflammation, increases stamina, increases endurance, and a lot of high-level athletes love it. And so that was her secret weapon. She started pounding our beet. We made it with her, and then we made a performance bundle for athletes that need a little extra, different nutrients, different vitamins, and a few more calories. So that type of thing. And so that's our story. That's how we got here, and how MamaSezz came about.
I love it. I was crying the entire time about your mom. I was just like, oh my gosh, she's still here. And she was at 10% heart and her kidneys were failing, and sounds like she had COPD, and and that was at her at 80, and all the MDs gave up on her. They all said, go home to die, go home to hospice. And we really have to wrap our brains around this. We have given over our power and our medical authority. Like, we've given over our decision making to these MDs that we put on a pedestal. And they are really well-intended people. Like, they are highly educated. They really do want to help. But it's like asking a plumber to look at and check my car engine. They're not trained in how to heal the body. They're trained in how to manage drugs and manage symptoms and sort of just, keep us alive with allopathic medicine. But they're not trained in school about nutrition and healing the body. And it blows my mind. So all the doctors and all the times she went to the ER and all the times she was in the hospital, MD allopathic drug-based medicine was not going to get her healthy. It was just going to maintain and sort of just keep her from dying. And then she comes home and eats your whole food, plant-based, no salt, sugar, oil cooking, and that's delicious. And she was eating food that was dense in nutrition and optimally designed to heal the heart. And she's here, and she's, years and years and years later, and she's driving and she's active, and she's having the quality of life that some 70-year-olds don't have. Just blows my mind.
It's really true. It was, I remember one time when I was in, and I didn't, at this time I didn't really know, but I remember thinking, wait a minute, she's a heart patient. Why are they giving her tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches? That just seems wrong, and I didn't even know at that, all that I know now. This was before we had the company, and it was crazy. And what I think happens, she has a story of her doctor, because earlier, before all this, she had had a pacemaker, and he said to her, you're never going to feel as good as you did before in your life. And it stuck with her, as, she's had a lot of doctors, but that particular one just stuck with her. She goes, what a horrible thing to say to somebody. And it turned out to be so dramatically wrong. But I think that that's a lot of people, a lot of doctors, and I think it's changing a lot, but I think that they have the tools that they have to work with. And nutrition is a very difficult thing to control. You can control a pill, but you can't control what somebody eats, and people aren't great at self-reporting. And so I think that they are trying to hedge their bets. And rightfully so, because they have an oath to do their best. Mm-hmm. And if what they're seeing is somebody who may or may not follow through, and then they die of a heart attack, or I can give them a stent and then they can, hopefully change their diet. But I think that that's what I see a lot. I've run into some flat out resistance to it, but a lot of it is that an abundance of caution and a desire, an understanding that most people aren't able to comply. And that was one of the reasons that we said, let's make it so flat out easy to do this, that people can get over that initial hump, that first month, that first 2 months, and then just because our products they're not like a meal kit or anything. They're more like what you would stock your fridge with. So, you get your almond milk, you get whatever other things, and you get your MamaSezz products, and you can eat them just as they are, or you can mix and match them with other things and make other meals. And that's what we wanted, to make it so easy for people that the multi-ingredient things are already made for you. We do veggie burgers. You can put whatever you want on a veggie burger. We do the chili. We'll do the lasagna. And we have a great new breakfast bundle coming out with frittatas and flatbread. And it's all gluten-free. There's no flour. It's amazing. But it's to make it super easy for people, because that's what we saw in the medical profession that doctors were really wary of. And it was accurate, because it is hard to comply, especially when you're not well and you have habits and probably addictions to different sugars and flours and foods and things, to comply. And so they hedge their bets, and we try and help on the other end. Okay, go ahead, keep taking medication, but do this as well, and have your doctor monitor your medication so you can wean off the things. And that was really what happened with Mom, because we didn't know what the heck we were doing, but all of a sudden her blood pressure dropped, like a stone. And we're like, oh my God. And what we realized is, because she was getting better, her blood pressure, she had high blood pressure, dropped, but she was on blood pressure medication, so it dropped too much. So, we have to scrape her off the floor, and then got her blood pressure medication adjusted, as she got stronger and stronger. It went down and down. It was a weaning process.
Wonderful. So she's off of medication now?
Yeah, she had a genetically high cholesterol. Some people just produce more cholesterol. And so she's on something for cholesterol, and she had a thyroid issue. And so she still has a small amount of that. And so it's like everything is she had initially, I have master's degrees, and I had to have a spreadsheet just to keep track of her medication when she first came. It was just insane. And, she's on B12 now. She does, D, some vitamins and things like that. And then she has a few of the other ones, one for the thyroid, and then a cholesterol.
So she's on 2 prescription medications instead of an entire spreadsheet of prescription medications.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. We had a similar testimonial in the Learn True Health Facebook group. We get testimonials all the time from listeners who, by listening to the show and following, the advice of people like Dr. Esselstyn, who's been on the show, my listeners then report back. And we had one woman who took pictures of her old medication and her new medication, and she went from something like 9 or 10 bottles down to 2 bottles. She said that she changed 3 things in her life by things that she learned from the show. She changed 3 things. And she got off of, and most of those meds were pain meds. And she says, I am now out of pain. And she's out of pain. And she is able to, she says, I'm going to start exercising now because I'm out of pain. And this is the quality of life that people can have by, shifting their diet.
You're bringing that message to them. I mean, that's what we need, somebody who can bring quality content to people. And that's research based. We knew we wanted to be grounded in research, and that's what you are, where you're bringing people this is real, and it actually works. And you can always know if a diet works, not by whether you lose weight or not, or if you have more energy, but if you get your actual physical numbers done. And so that's what we tell people is you might want to do keto, but what I would do is get all of my numbers done first, and then 6 months later, get them done again, or a year later, and follow it.
I like that. I like that you brought that up, that testing. That's exactly what happened to me. I have, through the last 15 years or so, I have reversed type 2 diabetes, chronic adrenal fatigue, chronic infections,
Wow.
for which I was on monthly antibiotics for,
Oh my
um,
goodness.
polycystic ovarian syndrome, and infertility. I had five, basically
Wow.
diseases, and I reversed it with food and supplements and lifestyle changes. And it was such, that's why I started the show, because I learned so much from naturopathic doctors and from these holistic doctors. I thought, this is crazy. The world needs to know this. The world needs to know that, just switching to organic made my chronic monthly infections go away. One change. Just one.
Wow.
I didn't even give up sugar. I didn't give up
Right.
dairy. I didn't give up meat. My first change back in 2008, 2009. So it was like right around 2008. It was right when Netflix started streaming the first health documentaries. The first health documentary said, shop the perimeter and buy organic. And we were still eating the standard American diet. I did more shopping the perimeter, and I chose organic. And within that month, my chronic infections went away. And I just turned to my husband. I'm like, if I can change one thing by, something so big by changing
Wow.
one aspect of my food. Yeah. And that began like my journey into just diving in, because I'd been going every month to the MD, and they just kept giving me drug after drug after drug. How many years could I have lived on countless antibiotics? I would have had to been on antibiotics the rest of my life, just
Exactly.
constantly. Would I still be here? I mean, I might have died from cancer or something, because my immune system was clearly not working.
Yeah, it sounds like it had just, you know, probably, which is a healthy response to a lot of toxins. You're like, your body's like, forget it. We can't do this. Alert, alert. Um, and luckily, I don't know how you had the wherewithal to find it, but luckily you did,
I,
because
I
that's amazing.
Divine intervention. It was
Yeah,
definitely,
I hear you.
there's a
I
lot of
hear you.
that.
We're angel driven, you know. We say
Yeah.
that too. I think it was, yeah, right around that year when we were doing this, we had done this. I did a public art show, and it was called Watching Angels, because our town had been hit by floods
Mm.
and it fires, and it had just like, we're a small town in the hills of Vermont, and it just like, you wouldn't think there'd be floods, but there was this massive flood that went right through the town. So I did this art show called Watching Angels, where I got artists from all over the world to send in angels, and it was outside, and we would put them in weird little places or curious places with a message, you know, an uplifting message. And then we had these two big 24-foot gratitude boards in town where people could go, write, what are you grateful for?
Oh.
Yeah. And it was amazing. Actually, it was like this vortex, and we kept it going for 30 days, and we documented it. And what we had said is that was kind of just dropped into my mind. I was drawing one night, and this whole idea just came into my head, and I was like, I'm not really a public artist, but okay. I guess I'll do that. And so I just kind of found my way through, and it turned out to be this really remarkable thing for the town, which was cool, and I was glad to be a part of. And the same feeling happened when MamaSezz really coalesced into an idea that we're going to do this. I got up early, was sitting at my breakfast table, and it was like this idea just came down, and the whole thing. And I said, okay, then that's what we're going to do. And here we are 3 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know that feeling of,
I had a feeling it would resonate with you. Like, I'm going to what?
but
You know?
yeah, because there's no safety net. There's no one there to catch you. There's no paycheck. I mean, it is like you might put your whole life savings into it, and you might not, when you're starting a business, it might be years before you get paid. So it's like there is no safety net, and you were, you're so bold. You're launching, this country wants McDonald's. What are you thinking? This,
Right.
people want to eat fast food. Like they don't want, what are you thinking? And so you're going against the norm. You're really going up against the norm, and you're saying, I bet that there are enough customers out there that desperately want a pre-made meal service that is going to help them heal their body. And that is so bold, because most people, the most people are not the listeners, obviously, but the majority of the people they don't even think about health. It's not even in their consciousness to think about it. So you really we're taking a huge risk to create a plant-based meal service that is designed for, athletes, designed for heart patients, designed for weight loss, designed, the different kind of niches, but that it's super healthy, clean food. And when the majority of people out there just want to go through a drive-through. So that was bold of you in that moment to say, I'm going to launch this, because you could have failed, but you didn't. And I love it.
Well, thanks. I think too, you might be giving me too much credit. I don't know if I thought about it. I think if I had probably measured it as clearly as you might have, I would have gone like, wait a minute. But I think it's the same thing that, galvanized you, is when you've had your life just really transformed and you can see how amazing it is, then I just felt like giving it away. It just felt like I have a golden ticket. And so, and anybody who had type 2 diabetes and I don't want to be the person who's like, well, talking to them, their ear off about plant-based food. And I said, well, maybe I'll just create a company and then we can and this is the lifestyle part, is it was really important that we have solid information for people, because there was so much woo kind of not accurate science, or maybe an accurate message, but backed up by kind of not strong arguments or science. And so we decided early on that we're going to invest a lot of our time and efforts also into creating solid information for people, because I wanted it. And I ended up really just having, it was a life or death situation for me. So I was highly motivated, but not everyone hopefully has to come to it being that motivated. And they can just come to our site and go, well, what is nutritional yeast? What do you do with it? How much B12 do I need? And get those kind of initial answers done, and really find well-documented, well-researched information. So that's the other part of what we do, because, it's not all about food. Food just kind of gives you the platform to then go lead the rest of your life. And there's a lot of other things that can go into that. And so
food gave your mom 10 years and plus, right? Of quality living. She went back to swimming. She went back to driving.
Yeah, she travels.
She travels. She's super healthy. It gave her life back. Food can give us our life back. I want us to stop thinking about, well, but what about my bacon, and what about my meat, and what about, but I love cheese. Just stop thinking about that. Think about, because we only eat, let's say if we add up all the hours of the day that we spend eating, okay, it's an hour a day. You're suffering for 23 hours a day from whatever illness, and you're worried about the 1 hour a day that, you enjoy your cheese. I mean, it just, this is what I struggled with. And it took me a while to kind of come around, because I had to wrap my brain around, I came to the realization that dairy was hurting my health. And I had to do a break from dairy and see if cutting out dairy would help. And the hardest thing to let go was cheese, because my husband and I would eat a brick of Tillamook cheese every weekend. It was just like the big kind from Costco, seriously, it's the size of a foot. And we would sit there and we would that was our, we'd eat it. It took us a weekend and we'd eat it. I mean, we would kind of look at each other like, where's the cheese? Oh, we already ate it. It was a huge brick. It's like the size of my head. And so, cream in the coffee, I had to kind of have a come to Jesus talk with myself and go, okay, so what? So what? I don't enjoy my coffee. I enjoy my coffee less. So what? So I find something else to snack on instead of cheese. I am suffering right now and I don't need to. And so I had to buck up and try a different way of eating. And then all of a sudden I had these huge results and I'm like, okay, it's worth it. But I went through a struggle. It took me a while to transition. So I slowly transitioned. I slowly ate less and less meat and more plants. My husband, however, he went vegan overnight. He just woke up and just said, like, everything in his being said, I never want to eat meat again. And since I'm the cook in the house, so I have to cook. Now I have to figure out how to cook plant-based, okay? So that helped my progression into the plant-based world. But what I found is that I had more energy in 1 week of eating more plants than I had, eating all the meat in the world. And we were raised to believe that meat gives us energy. We're raised to believe that meat makes us feel good. And so I was surprised because I thought for sure I'd feel shaky and weak. Because again, I lived as a diabetic for many years. I was afraid of carbohydrates. I was afraid
Oh,
that eating yams or potatoes or grains, whole grains, or, even vegetables. I was afraid of vegetables for many years because I was afraid of carbohydrates. And so I had to face all these fears and all these beliefs about food. And I had to examine them and go, is this science-based? Is this based in reality? Or, can I reorganize my thinking about food? Because I'd never tried eating just whole foods. Like, okay, stir fry with no oil, and there's easy way to do it, but saute a bunch of vegetables, really delicious. Use the spices I love, put it over some brown rice, all organic, of course, and put in, make my own tahini sauce or something, make my own, lemon garlic sauce or whatever I want. So delicious. And I thought for sure I'll be hungry in an hour, I'll be shaky, I'll be weak, and it was the opposite. My energy
wow.
lasted longer. I
Yeah.
just began to feel better and better. And I told you this before we hit record, but yesterday, I had for breakfast, it actually was really an early start because I woke up just after 4. And so sometime between 4 and 5, I made a big bowl I took homemade sprouts and a big bowl of sprouts with avocado and a homemade sesame sauce, like a tahini sauce. And I had that for breakfast. And then I didn't eat again for about 8 to 10 hours. Um, I can't remember exactly when I had breakfast because I know I woke up at 4, but I basically didn't eat again until 2 p.m. And I kind of looked around going, oh, wow, I'm just starting to get hungry now. And that wasn't me in the past when I was a meat eater. I had to eat like every 3 to 4 hours or else I'd be ravenous. And so I always thought I had to have meat to feel satiated.
Mm.
And so this is just a big, big shift to go, wait, I just ate plants and I am more satiated, and eating meat actually caused me to be hungry more often. So I had to constantly face my belief system about food and go, okay, I'm looking at foods to heal my body. Is my belief system and also my desire for, oh, is it going to taste good? Because I just talked to a client yesterday and I was talking about broccoli as an example. And I said, 100 calories of broccoli is like 2.5 cups of broccoli. So just to give a comparison, it's very filling and nutrient dense, but it's volumetrics. It's low
Right.
calorie, but big volume. So you can eat a lot of a non-starchy vegetable, feel very good. You're getting all these nutrients. And she goes, yeah, but that'd be boring. And
Hmm.
I was like, yes, exactly. People are worried about eating healthy because it's boring, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, I think that you touched on so many important points that we've seen with people um, transitioning to eat this way, and one of the ones that you said is you had a kind of come to Jesus moment, and if you have a health issue, then that's usually where the rubber meets the road. And
Mm-hmm.
I say to people, you're going to need to make a decision about what you want to do here, and accept that there will be some things that are different than what they used to be, and just do it for today. And then when tomorrow comes, do it for tomorrow, and add more things, more good stuff to your plate, and have the meats or the dairies be smaller. And then add more of this amazing buffet of possibility over here that are plant based. It's colorful, rich, amazing foods. Eat those first and then eat the other. And when you can flip it that way, and just kind of wean the others away,
Mm-hmm.
you allow your taste buds, which takes some time to change, because we've really been um, just kind of saturated with the idea that you have to have massive amounts of salt, sugar, and fat for something to taste good.
Mm-hmm.
A potato chip is a good example of that. The reason they taste so good is because those elements are so, so high. And it's addictive. That's why you can't eat just one. It's not because that particular taste is so unique and amazing. It's that combination of those elements are so amazing. So it takes a while for your taste buds to readjust. But like you said, when you begin to have the benefits and can allow yourself that, it so outweighs the other. But I totally get that for people who are, grew up eating a certain way, changing can be difficult. And there is a point where you make a decision. Well, what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
And if you can know that on the other side of it is not like, that food that's just going to be blah the rest of your life, because I think that's the fear, or I'm never going to have enough protein. But to do what you did, which was to really allow yourself the experience of it, and then to be reflective enough to say, well, was that true? Did I really have an energy drop? No, I didn't. Am I really starving? No, I'm not. Did that taste bad? No, it tasted good. And to let yourself do that enough so that your body is like, this is what I crave. I don't crave the other anymore. And that happens. That happens to everybody. It takes about, they say, 66 days to really ingrain a habit if you do it consistently. Everyone would like it to be 3 days, but that's just our physiology and our psychology. It just takes some time, and to give yourself that time, the gift of health, we call it, because, the benefits are just so profound. Even if you don't have an illness, especially if you don't have an illness, just to be able to live your life with that level of sustained, clear energy with
Mm-hmm.
a focus is really just amazing. Well, that's how we're meant to live. That's why there's, when you can read all the ingredients, and you could grow them in a garden of our food. But for a lot of foods that we see, there's just absolutely no place that they are found in nature. They're found in a lab. And, it's not surprising that our bodies don't process them or recognize them that well.
Mm-hmm. So how long have you been offering MamaSezz? How long have you been shipping
Yeah, we
meals?
launched in February of 2017, and pretty quickly made the decision to ship nationwide. And so we ship fresh. It comes in a cooler. And this is another thing that bothered me when we first started. I wanted to see what other companies were doing, how they did it, what worked, and what we could glean from it. And what I ended up with was a garage full of just boxes and ice packs and liners. And I thought, this is crazy. So much of this is just going to end up in a landfill.
Mm-hmm.
This is, like, talk about being the ugly American. I'm going to get these like 10 meals and I'm dumping all this in a landfill. We need to crack that nut. So we decided right off the bat that this is something that we have to create a model that handles that. And so what we do, we have a two-tiered approach. The first thing that we do is we give you a shipping label and we take everything back. So you get your box and all of your stuff, and then you just put your ice packs back in, unless you want them, and the liners, and you just ship it back to us. And we recycle and reuse all of it. The other thing that we're doing is I grew up in part on the ocean in Maine, and realized that our oceans are really getting hammered. And what can we do to help raise awareness about that, and also monetize potentially taking the plastic out of the ocean? And so we said, well, we could probably make shipping boxes out of ocean plastic.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so that's our under the wire project that we're working on now, is to pull the plastic from the ocean, pelletize it, make boxes out of it, because that you can reuse and reuse. You can do 50, 60 trips with that. And then, when the box is no longer usable, you can repelletize it and, make a park bench out of it. So that's our idea. Our second idea. Our first is, of course, we take everything back, because it's, this is it. We get one planet, one life. And maybe it was, after the 50 mark in my life, and then seeing how fragile it was for my daughter, and then at my mom at her stage in her life, is that it is so rapid and so fast. And what am I going to leave for my children? What kind of world am I going to leave? What kind of environment am I going to leave? Are they going to be struggling with things that I never even could imagine? And so how do we set a tone in a company that can leave it better than when we got here, or at least stop the burn? And so that is a big part of who we are and why we do what we do.
Brilliant. So you have been shipping out since 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last few years, you must have testimonials. What can you share some that are in the forefront of your mind?
Yeah, we have so many customers, and this is, because startups are tough. At least, food businesses, it's a difficult business. There are a lot of moving parts when you make your own food. We don't outsource our food to a co-packer, which a lot of companies do. We do it all ourselves. We have a brilliant plant, brilliant shipping facilities, but there are a lot of moving parts. And so what keeps you going is knowing that what you're doing matters, that it's impacted somebody's life in a really positive and in many times life-changing way. And so we hear from our customers, every day, that they, we came out with a weight loss bundle, and I had resisted it for a long time because I didn't want people to, just focus on their weight, and not on their health. But what I realized is that weight is sometimes what gets your attention. And if this is a way we can get people's attention, and then they end up having this health, and the weight drops off, because it always does when you're plant-based. So we developed a weight loss program, and the most moving pieces are people who have had lifelong 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds that they have lost and gained back, and lost and gained back, and been caught in this struggle, and which is an excruciating struggle, because every day for every meal, you're measuring it against, am I gaining weight or am I losing weight? Am I gaining weight? Am I losing weight? Do these pants fit? Don't they fit? And when you get up in the morning, am I bloated and not bloated? So there's this whole massive amount of energy that is sucked up by how much do I weigh? And what a lot of people have believed is it's their psychology is somehow off.
Or they blame
What we know.
themselves. They blame themselves.
Right.
I was too weak. I couldn't do it. And
I had a crummy childhood. I had something, all of this stuff, maybe those pieces are true, but what we know is that there's flat out science that says if you put too much sugar, fat, salt, and other chemicals in your body, it'll alter your body chemistry, and so that you begin to set up a craving in there that is just like any other addiction, and you are powerless to it. And so what you need to do is you get that out of your system and let your body heal. And when you do that, you will lose weight naturally, because you will no longer be in conflict with food. So we'll get messages from people, and they're ecstatic about the 10 or the 15, 20, 30. We've had people lose 65 pounds on our program. And that is wonderful, because to be released that. But the number one thing that is so moving is that they tell us to a person, I have unhooked from food obsession, which means that the weight issue is you're done. You paid that electric bill. You don't have to go back to it. You're not going to be next month. If you keep eating a plant-based diet, you're not going to be in conflict with food. You're not going to have to get up and think, oh, should I eat this or shouldn't I? All of that energy. And it's not just women. So many men have it. They suffer differently than women, but it's still a struggle. They might go to the gym more, or, and women too, an obsession with working out, which has to do, and this is I used to in college, to help get through college, I worked in gyms. And I remember it was during the early 80s when they first started putting calorie counters on treadmills. And the population of our gym changed from men to women. And women would come in, and it was not to get fit, but all of a sudden the marketing had shifted. So where if you could work out, you could burn off last night's whatever. And that's what happened, is working out became a way to get rid of calories as opposed to a way to get healthier. Health, if working out did not burn calories, people would not do it for the health reasons. They just wouldn't. And that is what happened. That's what happened. And marketers got it. And now you'll see everything has a calorie counter on it. Everything tracks. Oh my goodness, are you burning calories? I can say I have never, ever, I don't count a calorie. I don't think about calories. And this is somebody who, when I was in my 20s, had a pretty significant eating disorder. So I was all that, I was as hooked into food as you could get. And it's gone, just gone. And that is the piece that is the most moving. We've had, a woman in her 50s, she lost 65 pounds, and then the transformation of her life, because her orientation was no longer about food and my own weight and my inability to lose weight. So, and those are really gratifying.
Being at peace with food, for those who have suffered with emotional eating, overeating, binge eating, or food addiction, it's over 10% of the population has this, and it occupies every minute of the day for them. And I know, because that was me. And you're right. The whole food plant-based diet has given me peace in my body. And I interviewed Dr. Ellen Goldhammer, the founder or co-founder
we work
of
with
the
him.
True North Medical Center. Right. Yeah. You mentioned him, or you mentioned the True North Medical Center. And he co-authored the book, The Pleasure Trap. I really recommend reading it or listen to it, because Chef AJ narrated it. So, and I love her. I've had her on the show twice. And he talks about the pleasure trap, and he talks about the hyper palatable foods in our society that really have hijacked our brain and hijacked our ancient survival mechanism, because we for 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, or 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, however long it was that we were evolving and growing and being here on this planet, whatever your belief system, everyone believes we've been here at least 5,000 years, depending on what religion you're part of, but we've been here long enough that back when there weren't restaurants, and maybe we had to hunt or forage or gather or whatever, that the body, we would go through times of famine. And in order to survive the famine, our ancestors had to gorge on high fructose fruit when it was in season. That's why fructose is the only carbohydrate that doesn't, actually the only macronutrient that doesn't trigger the satiety mechanism in the brain. And so what that means is you could not imagine drinking a liter or 2 liters of coconut cream or high let's see, a whole dairy, whatever it's called, whole milk, right? Like if I were to hand you two liters of I don't know what the conversion is in American gallon.
Right.
We don't know what the unit.
Like 2 gallons.
2 gallons.
Right.
Okay. If I'm going to hand you 2 gallons of like high fat milk, right? And tell you to chug it, you would be like, are you going to pay me $1 million? Maybe, but that doesn't sound appealing. Like you drink a glass of high fat coconut milk, and that's like, even a glass would be too much. It's just too much. But if I were to give someone 2 liters of a soda pop like Coca-Cola or Pepsi, like a teenager would down that in a day and have no problem. Like they would definitely have problems, like sugar high, but the fact is that something with fructose doesn't trigger the satiety mechanism. So they use fructose in foods to make us consume more of it, because we were meant to gorge heavily on fruit and never fully feel full so that we could gain weight, so we could survive the famine. And so, that was healthy back when it was in a whole food form. But then they took fructose and they isolated it and highly concentrated it, and they put it in all packaged food in some way or another. Most potato chips have some form of sugar in them.
Sure.
And along with the other things that trick the brain to make us want to have more and more and more of it. So our brains from a very young age have been hijacked by these frankenfoods, as well as the marketing Because if, and I've discussed this on the show before, it hit me when I was a child and I'd watch Sesame Street or whatever that had commercials, because I don't know if PBS has commercials, but whatever kids show I'd watch, the commercial would come on. It would be a Kellogg's commercial, or there'd be Cheerios, or there'd be Lucky Charms, or whatever, and with all these fun childlike characters. And you'd get a prize, or there'd be cartoons on it, and so it would be this very like friendly, calming thing for a child. It wasn't threatening. It was something that looked delicious, and it was something that was comforting. So you grow up going down the aisles, seeing your familiar friends on these boxes, and seeing all the familiar logos on all these highly processed foods, and it isn't threatening to your neurology because you grew up with these brands, and our neurology is threatened by something new. At an unconscious level, we don't, especially for food, and especially for children, they don't like new things. But we grow up as adults, and now we're buying the same brands that we have been essentially brainwashed to trust because we grew up and they were part of our childhood. So we just kind of blindly trust so much of the food that's on the shelves and on our plates and in the drive-through, because they were able to market to us our entire lives. It's like 1984, they're able to just like George Orwell our brain and hijack us. So we have to kind of pull ourselves out and go examine our belief system around food. Why? And like, I had to ask myself, like, why do I want to eat this? Really? What is motivating me? And why do I want to build my cells? I have 37.2 trillion cells. Do I want the next bite I'm putting into my mouth? Do I want my body to be made out of this food? Like, I don't know, some kind of potato chips, right? As the example we come to. Right. Do I want to take oil, highly processed oil, GMO with pesticides, and some fried potato chip with heterocyclic amines, which is carcinogenic, it's a massive carcinogenic compound that happens when you take certain foods and process them in high heat. And then highly concentrated salt and sugar and MSG and other chemicals. Okay, do I want to build my cells that are going to support me in health? Do I want to build my brain with this food, build my immune system with this food? And if we looked at every single bite we put into our body and we asked ourselves, do I want my eyesight, my eyes, the next cells to make my eyeballs, do I want them to be made out of this food? Do I want better eyesight or worse eyesight? And so
you're nailing it. It is not logical. And I think that's one of the things that's really baffled me in my own life, is that I make a lot of decisions that aren't logical. And I know that the times that I make those decisions, are usually something's going on. I'm either I'm hungry. So we tell people, we call it HALT: hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Oh. That address those things. And first is hunger, because it's very hard to make a good food decision when you're hungry. And there's something that is, going to taste good and give you the boost that you want. You might even intuitively know it, like it's a cookie or those types of really sweet type things, or chips that are fast and they give you a jolt. So if you can avoid being hungry in the first place with whole food, plant-based foods, it's much easier to not want things that are bad for you, we found. And that's because you're right. It makes no sense, even when you're informed, that people still make bad decisions. And so, knowing that, we say, well, give yourself a little bit of a break and just take care of, don't make yourself be hungry, just like you wouldn't make your baby be hungry. You'd give them really good food, and if your baby was angry, you'd kind of pick them up and go, hey, it's all going to be okay. And you can do the same with yourself. And lonely, of course, with young children, you wouldn't just stick them in a room alone. You nurture that need as well. And tired, of course, we're all, I think most people are working more, and they have at this time in our lives just phenomenal stress, financially, physically, in our world. We're so interconnected. I don't think we can of being in a very connected and wired world, for as amazing as it is, how much of our energy and mental focus it gets kind of distracted and chewed up by that, which then leads to a kind of like trying to catch up when you get out of it. And so those are the parts of the lifestyle that we try and address, that putting good food in your body is the number one thing. And it's a whole lot easier to make decisions when you have that in your body. But to understand that there's all these other pulls that you're just going to do stuff, and if you probably know a lot about recovery from alcohol and other addictions, that it makes no sense that somebody would, lose their license, lose their children, lose their job, and then still go do something that was so damaging to themselves. So, and we know that is because there's an active addiction going on. And once you can get that out and then give people the tools to deal with that time of recovery, of when you're no longer, when you're learning, how do I live differently and how do I make different decisions? And so that's a part of what we really focus on as well, are to give people the other tools to go from, consistently making bad decisions to making fewer bad decisions around food, to making good decisions, and have some compassion for themselves.
One thing I would add to your HALT, I love it, is hydrate. So maybe hungry and hydrate.
That's cool. Yeah, that's perfect. Because I think you're almost, hydrate would be number one, right? And then hunger. Because a lot of times I think I'm hungry and I'm just thirsty. I don't, I don't even know the difference.
I've done a lot of work with the thirst mechanism, and it's strange. A lot of people think I'm not thirsty, so I'm not dehydrated, and it's far from the truth. In fact, thirst is sort of like, when your car says, okay, I'm about to be out of gas, but you actually still have like 50 miles. My car does that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thirst happens when the tank runs out and the car like all of a sudden just stops. And we're like, oh, we need more gas. That's when thirst actually kicks in. When we're below empty and we actually needed to have started drinking water 50 miles ago. So
that's a really good analogy.
Yeah, I just came up with that.
That is so good. That is really good.
Whereas hunger comes when our tank is like 60% still full. Our body's like, okay, I just made some room in the stomach. You can eat now. And we eat way too many. We eat more calories than we need because our brain, for all the years that we lived without restaurants and without grocery stores, we didn't have access to regular meals. And so our brain was desperately seeking calorie-dense foods in order to not die. And so now that we have access to a constant supply of food, our brain goes, fantastic. We can be 400 pounds and we will never die of starvation. And that's your brain's job, is to try to get all of us to be 400 pounds because we have constant access to fuel. And our brain loves gaining weight because it wants us to survive the famine. But we don't need to eat 3 or 6 meals a day. And we're being told now that we should eat 6 meals a day. We don't have to, but we definitely want to get nutrients in us. There's 90 essential nutrients the body needs. The body needs omega fatty acids, which we can get from plants. The body needs protein, or in the form of amino acids, which we can get from plants. And an abundance of it, and all the amino acids. And that's my pet peeve, is when people say, oh, but you don't, you have to eat meat because you don't get, like, there's certain amino acids you just don't get unless you eat meat. Oh man, that was my first myth. I totally believed that. And that was the first myth I busted for myself doing the research. And we need 60 minerals, which we can get from, it's a little bit harder to get all our minerals because of the farming practices. But if we eat organic, and sometimes we can supplement with a trace mineral if we are deficient. But eating plants is going to ensure that we're getting more minerals than eating animals, because animals don't make minerals. Cows don't make minerals. Cows don't make calcium. Cows get their calcium from their feed and from they take supplements. So we can just skip the middleman and take our own supplement or eat lots of greens. So we need 60 minerals. We need 2 essential fatty acids, and we need 16 vitamins. And we could definitely get all the vitamins from from plants. So, I went through and looked at all the nutrition. I was like, well, what are we, what could, we got to get this dense amount of nutrition in us, but we don't need to eat 3, 4, 5,000 calories a day. And a lot of people are. And I know that I was constantly hungry, and I had to work on that, right? What's going on? My hunger mechanism was just constantly out of control. So, whereas I never felt thirst until I was incredibly dehydrated. So the hunger mechanism can kick in when we're still 60% full, and we have to kind of sort of check in with ourselves. And I love your thing. Check in. Is this really hunger? Or am I angry, lonely, tired? I have a sign on my fridge that I made that says, on a scale of 1 to 10, how hungry are you? Because I check in with myself and I go, you know what? It's a 3. I probably need a glass of water. And so checking in and having that self-awareness has really helped me, because I would have totally gone in and had a snack, because it's, it's fun to eat. And there's a word, and I don't remember the word in Japanese, but I love this word. There's a word in Japanese that means I eat not because I'm hungry, but because my mouth is lonely.
Right. It's true. And eating is fun. I think
Yeah.
we have a thing where we say, if you think you're hungry, have an apple. And, if you don't want to eat an apple, you're not really hungry. You might want something else. But I'm a believer in being prepared, especially when you're starting to shift things, because our mind is really tricky, and is just going to convince me of something that, I'm going to regret later.
Yes.
So we try and prepare ourselves. And I tell people, and we do this in the weight loss and in other things. One, we have drink water before every meal. It's shown if you're trying to lose weight, if you can drink 16 ounces of water before each meal and a green salad, you're going to lose up to 22% more than you would otherwise. So that's an incentive. But you also are getting those things that you were hydrating. And then to plan, you don't have to be maniacal, but when you're doing something new, it's a lot on your brain to make a decision every single time you have to eat or might be hungry. So go ahead and give yourself a break and plan out your meal. So we help people do that. And we specifically plan snacks, because what happens is exactly what you said. I'm hungry. I think I'll get something. And then the chips are there or whatever, you stop for gas, because food is everywhere. It wasn't when I was growing up. You got gas at a gas station. You didn't get like dinner, which is what you do now. So food is everywhere. There's so many times you have to decide, will I eat that or won't I? Because it's everywhere. So we pre-make those decisions. Plan your snacks. Plan your snacks. So make sure, just like I do my kids when I pack their lunch, I know they're going to get hungry, and so I give them a great snack and they look forward to it. And then they're not hungry and they come home and my kids are super healthy. And so do it for myself. Plan your snack. So like, oh, cool. Because food is also very sensual. It's so fun. And it's such a, a big part of our lives. And so many wonderful things happen around a table and around cooking and around, eating, that I don't want to take that away, but to put it in, to make sure that you actually really are enjoying it and it isn't like taking you over. And so that's why we plan snacks, so that you get that, great, this is a treat, cool, food is a treat, but make sure it's a real treat, not something, that you're going to like, oh, why did I eat that? Because who wants, it's so over that. It feels like so 90s, or 2010. I don't know, but that whole that, oh, I shouldn't have eaten that. Why did I? That just takes so much can take so much energy. So just plan for it and give yourself. And then when you get in the habit of it, it just makes sense. We plan for so many other things in our life that really don't impact us in the same sort of way. So if you just plan, hey, this is what I'm going to eat this week, and don't feel like bad if you don't do that, but just know that it's there. Like you'd put gas in your car, because I have a long drive. So I think I'll put gas in my car, and I'll plan to do that. It's just that kind of reorientating our thinking, so that you're super taking care of yourself in a way that you would for somebody that you just love beyond measure, and want them to never feel like, oh, thirsty or hungry or tired or any of those things, and to care for ourselves with that same affection.
On the weeks that I have planned out the meals, I have such low stress that it made me realize how. So I'm the cook in the house, right? And we have a 4-year-old who's almost 5, and I have a husband.
Okay.
So I'm responsible
Which
for, and we also have a cat, but I pre-order, we actually get the cat food shipped to us. So like he's taken care of. So I have 3 people I have to feed every day. Me, my husband, and our son, the 3 of us. And being responsible for my food is stressful enough because I have for many, many years have focused so intensely on healing my body and getting to a weight and healing my liver and all the
sure.
complications that have come up, I've gotten I've had so many results, and I'm still working on my health, right? So we're all still, there's no tip of the Mount Everest of health. We're all still we're getting somewhere. We're all still improving our health. And so my consciousness is around, how I can eat in a way that brings me the most health. And then I have to feed a 4-year-old, and then I have to
Hmm.
feed a husband. And everyone has different palates, and everyone wants to eat at different times, and everyone, wants different portions and wants, different ingredients. And we also have food allergies in the house. So, and if I'm working, then my husband's with our son, and I have to and then my husband, he tries his best, but I feel like I'm more responsible for creating healthy meals than anyone else in the family. So I take it upon myself. And on the weeks that I've planned ahead and I have pre-made food, like on a Sunday, I'll take half a Sunday and just make a ton of food and have it all packaged up and have it in the fridge. The rest of the week, there's a level of peace in me
Mm.
that it was like I just came out of a yoga class, but all week long. Like, I just can't believe how much peace I have in my body, because there's something in the back of my brain, like a constant worry about, okay, what am I feeding my son? What am I feeding my husband? What am I going to eat next? What am I cooking? What am I cooking? What am I cooking? Oh, I got to go to the grocery store. Oh, we're just ran out of this. Okay, my son's hungry. Okay, I got to feed him a snack. And it's just this constantly worrying in the back of my mind that just takes up a ton of energy. And I didn't even notice I did it until I did an entire week of meal prep, and I didn't have to that voice didn't even need to be there. And I couldn't believe how much energy it took. And I just wonder for the listeners, because even if it was just for me, like if I didn't have to worry about other people, I still would be thinking those thoughts like, oh, I got to go to the grocery store and I have to make sure I prep, cook this. I got to make that salad and I have to steam my, 2 pounds of vegetables, and I got to pre-soak my beans. I hate it when I go to cook beans and I haven't pre-soaked them. And so that little
All
voice,
that's
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's why we started the company, because
yes,
I, with
right.
that level of stress and if you're trying to eat healthy and you're eating plant-based, it's a lot, and we're busy and we have it's not like you're just home and all you have to do is plan meals. But
No,
it's
we're
still a
busy.
lot. Yeah, it's busy. And so that's what we said. It's a lot easier. We said, wouldn't it be great to have a personal chef, without the awkward small talk? You just the food arrives and you just it's there in the fridge. I know what I'm going to have for breakfast. I know I'm going to have for lunch. I get a meal plan that tells me suggestions. And, if you have a family, we have a family bundle, and with a very hearty kind of familiar taste profile. So it's not like these are crazy weird things, but at any time I could go in the fridge and I know I could get a MamaSezz chili, I could get a MamaSezz Moroccan stew, or the MamaSezz veggie burgers. All of our food freezes well too, but it's all there and you always know you have it. And because it's that level of stress, or that's when hungry, angry, lonely, tired, that's when things tip and we make decisions out of expediency.
Mm-hmm.
And it's totally understandable, because we're getting crushed by the amount of stressors that we have, and it's real. It's not like I'm made up and we just got to suck it up and get better at it. It's real. There's so much going on, and with families and work schedules and just timing of things is just and then, oh, I forgot this. I got to go to the store, and that sets everything back a half hour, and that means the evenings. So, and so that's what we try and alleviate, is that juggernaut of stress, so that you can just go about living your life
Mm-hmm.
and enjoying really good food, and it's there for you. And if you want to make something else, of course you can, but you have the basics there at any
Mm-hmm.
time.
I love it. Back around 2013, I was doing a job that was took up so much of my time that it was like 12 hours a day, and there was no me time at all. Um, and it was just a project. It was going to be a few months, and I basically just had to pour all my waking hours. I'd wake up and immediately start working. I had to pour all my waking hours into it, and I was very passionate about it, but it was something that like I couldn't even afford to cook or to even go out to eat or anything. Like it just I had to put all my time into it. And so I started Googling, meal delivery service or whatever. And, Uber Eats wasn't around at the time. And luckily, and I ended up finding some kind of delivery service, sort of like yours, but not, it wasn't plant-based. I wasn't plant-based at the time, but I was eating like paleo. And this company did paleo meals. And I was just like, because we were gluten-free at the time. We were trying to eat whole foods as much as possible. And so we did it for about 3 months. Um, and it was, I mean, obviously not your delicious food, but just the ease of having meals
Yeah.
delivered, that were already made that I could just heat up and like either on the stove or in the oven. I don't do microwave. I know some people can or choose to. I don't choose to. Um, and that was it. I didn't have to think about it. And so
Right.
I really enjoyed it. And it was, I found less expensive than if I had gone out to restaurants. More expensive, obviously, than if I'd cooked it for myself, obviously. But it actually, I felt as though it was a good investment. It helped me get that project done. Which was helpful for us, obviously. And so I thought, wow, this is really cool. And I considered continuing to do it. But then I had the time, plenty of time after that to be able to cook, and our diets changed. But I always thought that was really interesting. So we did it for 3 months, and it really helped us get over the hump. And I thought that that was a great resource. Well, they were just sort of coming out, these meal
Right.
kits or whatever. Now this was totally pre-made food, and they give you a little card. It says, here's your breakfast, here's your lunch, here's your dinner. Um, and then there are other companies like that. And so I've tried one since that have pre-packaged ingredients, and you kind of have to mix them together to make your
Right.
meal. And I
Yeah.
tried a vegan one, and it was the most complicated thing ever. I
Way
got,
too
oh
hard.
my gosh, it was
Like
this.
mean.
I mean, the things taste good, but I had the hardest time. It was a big box, and it came with like 40 different packages, and it wasn't organized. And then they give you this like this like recipe list, and you have to find each package. And there's not like find the blue package or find the red package. So all the packages are black and white, and you have to read every single all 40 of them to find the like tamari or whatever, and then you have to read them all again to find like the jackfruit. Oh my gosh, it was so, it actually, I just kind of like, I got kind of pissed off, and I ended up just mixing and matching the ingredients and just cooking them, on the stove, whatever it was, because I felt like I was given a Lego set with the wrong Legos. And I was
So
like,
funny.
there's no way that there's a jackfruit. Like there's no, oh man, they gave me too many jackfruits, so they didn't give me enough tamari or whatever. So I just felt that was like a real bummer, because it actually came recommended by a naturopathic friend of mine, and she was like, "Oh, this is the best in the world," and I think she just loves it because they have some kind of like brownies or something, and
Right.
I'm not into desserts as much as I used to be. So I was like, well, I'm interested in the health food. So that was like really annoying. And then I have friends who get the meal delivery service where a few times they send about one box a week, and they give you all the ingredients, and then they give you a recipe, and you have to cook it yourself. So
Yeah.
it really doesn't save you any
Stresses me
time.
out.
Yeah, right. It doesn't
Yeah.
save you any time, but it does kind of, I guess, save you a trip to the grocery store, and that's nice. And they give you a recipe, but you still have to cook it all yourself, and that doesn't really help you for all the other meals. It's just more of like, if you have time and you sort of want a hobby, like I would like a cooking hobby, but I'd like someone to do all the shopping for me, and I just, and I want to be given the recipe kind of like a surprise. You're making this recipe this week. And that's kind of fun if you want a hobby and you have a lot of time. But so there's different companies out there that'll ship you like food, depending on how much time you have. And then the least, the people who have the most amount of time, I guess, is the meal delivery service where it's just a box of raw vegetables from a farm. And I've done that before because it's cool to buy directly from a farm. You're supporting local agriculture and you're getting like from a local organic farm, and that's really sustainable and beautiful. Or you have to go to the farm itself and pick up your box. That's also cool. And so that's different because you still have to do all the thinking and cooking yourself. Your way of doing it, you have really clean ingredients. You're working with doctors that regularly heal heart disease and other major diseases like diabetes, and also help people with addiction and weight loss and those things, and athletes. So you're working with doctors to design, making sure that the nutrient profiles are optimal for health. Your focus is on health. That your food is delicious, and also your food isn't weird, like some weird vegan thing, because I'm totally into the weird vegan thing. I've just embraced it all. But I can see, my tempeh would be a bit threatening. My sprouts and my sauerkraut might be like a little weird for people, but you're like chili and everyone gets happy about it. So, so your food's delicious and it's familiar, and there's zero stress because it just gets shipped to you. I'd like to talk a bit about sort of logistics. Is it in plastic? Is the plastic BPA free? Do you how do you prevent leaching from plastic into food? Have you looked into that? I'd like to know that because that was a big concern for me when I was buying it. And then is it organic? Is it non-GMO? When you cook, do you cook with cookware that doesn't have non-stick like Teflon? Like how strict are you guys when it comes to the being non-toxic? Yeah,
we're pretty fanatical.
Nice. I think. So am I.
The big issue is plastic, and the number one rule when you're making food for people is you don't want to harm people. You don't want it to be dangerous. So you don't want any microbes that could, harm people getting into the food. And plastic, unfortunately, is the most effective way to do that. Glass can work, but glass is also very dangerous in a production facility because if you drop a piece of glass, shards can go anywhere. And
sure.
So we have zero glass in our production facility. Most high-level production facilities don't. But we use recyclables, and we also take everything back. So if there's anything that somebody doesn't feel like they want to, even though all of our ice packs are recyclable, some people just don't want to do it. We take it back and we recycle everything appropriately. And our facility is really, it's like it's probably like a surgical suite to some people. We are fanatics. I mean, it's a clean room. You can't get into our plant unless you go through a clean room. You are scrubbed down. I mean, you're definitely in surgical scrubs all of the production. And we worked with labs to say, how do we make this food so that it is not contaminated? What we're trying to do is to inspire health at every point. What can we do to do that? And so, I think on those, I think we're doing a good job. There's always places where you can do more, and so we do as they come up, we try and address them. And I think for organic, we were one of the first organic breads in the country. It was a Vermont Bread Company back in the 80s when people were saying you can't have organic bread because you need to put chemicals in or bread will rot on the shelf. And so we figured out a way to do that. So organic is hugely important to us, and we really respect the certification. And what we know in our sourcing is we are 99% organic, and there's one or two items that occasionally you can't get 100% organic. Local farmers, they might be a farmer in transition. Some of our farms are, which is a real issue, farms that were not organic who are transitioning to. There's like a 3 year period where they're really doing amazing things, but and it's costing them a lot of money, and they're not. So those are the farmers that we end up buying for those products that at that moment we can't source.
I
So I
love
would say,
that. I love
yeah,
that you're supporting farmers that are transitioning. I wish there was a certification that we could put on our food that's like no pesticide free farmer transitioning to organic or something. I don't know,
right,
some kind
right,
of acronym because
because
I
they're
would,
just amazing.
yes.
Those people, they're doing some, they're really, putting a profit, an easy profit, um, on hold and
Mhm.
hoping that they can make it through this period and then regain it, or at least break even. And so it's really noble work. And so we try and support there where we can. And we're keen into regenerative agriculture. We work with Dr. Ron Weiss down in New Jersey, who has this amazing, I don't know if you've ever talked with him, but I'll give you his information, because
Great.
he's brilliant, and he's an incredibly compassionate man. And he bought this huge farm in New Jersey, and he's doing a lot of this work of turning from non-organic to organic, and is very keen on regenerative ag, because like you referenced earlier, that the nutrients in our food, even organic food today compared to organic food 50 years ago, does
Hmm.
not have the same amount of nutrients. And so we're kind of destroying our topsoil. And so how do we address that? And he's doing some beautiful work with that. And he's a wonderful, wonderful, brilliant guy. So
Oh
can,
my gosh, I
yeah,
love it. Just the fact that mamasezz.com is organic, or like, like you said, 99% organic, uh, that in and of itself is worth getting your pre-made food delivery service, just to ease the people's minds. Okay, I know I'm not eating pesticides. I know I'm eating really clean food.
yeah,
And on top of that, you're eating really healthy food that's also delicious. But like I would have, 5 years ago, even when I wasn't plant-based, I would have prescribed to your food delivery service, because my focus since 2008 has been eating organic, because it made such a big difference to my immune system.
sure.
So it's I'm sort of like an organic snob when I go grocery shopping. My
Right.
little son, when he was like 2, would be like, because he, kids are parrots, and he would say, "Is it organic? Is that organic?" And it's so cute. I'm like, "Yes, sweetie, you can have this apple. It's
Yeah.
organic." And there's so many times when he'll be like, "Oh, I want grapes, mama, mama, I want grapes," and I'm like, "Oh, they're not organic." And then he just stops, and he's like, "Okay."
He
Because
gets it.
yeah, because
He
I
gets
mean,
it.
you definitely don't want to eat grapes when they're not organic, but he gets it. That's like, okay, we're eating organic, and then we'll go, okay, let's go find you something to eat. Let's go find you an organic banana or something. Let's go find you something else. And then he goes, okay, so it's not about, okay, you can't have food. It's about, let's make healthy food choices. And he doesn't want the chemicals in him, because we talked about it at like, at a kid
It,
level.
it's
And
true.
yeah.
Kids intuitively get it. They really get it, and they're very honest about it. They're very, yeah, but I like this. It tastes good. So they can, we talk a lot in schools and things like that, and our own kids, but they get it, and we, not we're organic, and so by just because if you're organic, you're non-GMO. Um, and we also, I think, something that people underestimate is the impact of preservatives. Even citric acid, we don't use citric acid. We use um, our own system to package the food so that it has a long shelf life without preservatives or any chemicals.
Hmm.
And you nailed it. Why would you put chemicals in your body? And so one of the things when I talk about us being a lifestyle company is we realized, wow, so we're not eating any chemicals, but look at these creams that everyone's using. Almost every cream you have, even if it looks organic, has some sort of chemical where actually if you put it in a beaker, you would never pour it on your skin. You would just like forget it.
Cosmetics,
Yeah,
right. So
forget.
I
So we have
interviewed a woman who makes cosmetics at home, and she sells them on Etsy, and she healed herself from alopecia. And so she actually, when you buy cream from her, you have to keep it in the fridge, because it's made from
exactly.
scratch. Yes, and it's so divine. Her cream, you would pay $200 a jar for this cream in a spa. This cream is so luscious, and it's so affordable. her name's Emily, and it's Remedies by Emily. That's it. It's Etsy store, Remedies by Emily. And I've
So
had her on the
cool.
show twice. And
I would
she,
love to talk to her
yeah,
because
I can hook you up.
yeah, we have the same. We're coming out with a cream line. I don't think we'll be in. What we say is the more of us doing this good work, because there's so much bad stuff out there, the better. So I never feel like anybody in this space is a real competitor because there's just so much opportunity. So we like to support anybody. But we felt so strongly about it. We said let's develop a cream line that is as clean and amazing as our food line, because people are what they put in their body and on their body. So that's coming out. And I was just thinking that might be something good, a fun sample to give all of your listeners. I know we talked about some other things, but that might be something that we could do because we're launching that soon. And it just, yeah, you just feel better. And when you see my mom's skin, I'll send you a picture of her at 90. It will blow you away. I mean, sometimes it's amazing. She uses it every day. She's a skincare snob. She is just, but she looks amazing. And so much of it, you nailed it, is why would you put something on your body that one, you wouldn't eat or you wouldn't want in your body, because your skin's your largest organ. It absorbs everything and it has to go through your liver. And so it was a natural progression for us to do the skin cream as well. So
It's true. We often think that the skin is like this impenetrable barrier, but
right.
we have I've interviewed her several times. I want to hook you up with Kristen Bowen as well. She Kristen Bowen was 97 pounds, having 30 seizures a day in a wheelchair.
God.
And yeah, so I'm going to send you that episode. It's my first episode with Kristen.
Cool.
And now she's totally healthy. And but she has a concentrated magnesium soak from the Zextine C, and you get your blood you go get your blood tested for your magnesium levels, and then you do a challenge. You get 1 jug of her undiluted concentrated magnesium soak, and you soak your feet in it, just 2 ounces of her concentrate in some water, and you soak your feet for an hour a day. And then you go back and get your blood tested, and 76% of people are fully cell saturated, that they completely have beaten the deficiency. Yeah. And then the other people need to do it for like another 2 to 3 months. And then there's a small percentage of people that still are magnesium deficient. And that then actually it sheds a light on a underlying health issue that's burning through their magnesium. So it actually helps them to discover, like, go deeper with their naturopathic doctor and discover what's going on. But they could have gone the rest of their, life and possibly breaking down because there was an underlying health issue burning through their magnesium. Brilliant. So 76% of people get to full cell saturation in 1 month, and it's totally transdermal. It's through their skin. Now, I was taking 600 milligrams of a liquid magnesium supplement, which I felt good every time I took it. So I knew I was absorbing it. I could feel it. And I took it for 10 years. And I still was magnesium deficient. And I did her magnesium soak, and it was so life-changing for me. So I was like, how is it that I've been taking an oral supplement and eating tons of vegetables, and I'm still magnesium deficient? So I absorbed all my magnesium from her soak. So our skin absolutely can absorb things depending on the size of the molecule. And even shampoo, you can put, chemical shampoo on your scalp, and even though it's only there for like a minute or two, they can find it in your bloodstream, and it's it's harmful for the body and the liver. So yeah, so cosmetics of all kind, deodorants, and everything we put on our skin plays a role in harming us, or could actually help us and heal us. Yeah.
And heal us. Exactly. That's beautiful.
I love it. And the most important thing is food, because we build our cells from food. And the second, and hydrate. And then the second most important thing is reducing the amount of chemical exposure we have. So I love that your food is organic. I love it's non-GMO by default because it's organic. When you cook the food, are you making sure that this facility is using, they're not using Teflon, they're not using things that off-gas or add any chemicals to the food?
Yeah. In a production facility, it's the cookware is a little bit different. And so it's pretty high tech, some of the things that we do, which are cool. And we worked early on with a lab, and the lab scared me to death, going through on what could possibly happen and we spent, there were a few long days where we were like, well, how the heck are we going to do this then? And some of it requires just a bigger investment
Can you give me
in
an
equipment.
example of what you had to invest in further? Because you could have cut corners. Like I'm really getting a feeling that your ethics and your love for people and your love for your customers, that you're willing to go the extra mile, work with a lab, spend extra money that you didn't necessarily have to, because we have been duped by all the food companies out there. They cut corners. Every restaurant we go to chooses the least costful way to prepare the food. And there's restaurants aren't going to make a profit if they're like choosing the most expensive, most high quality ingredients, right? Unless they're charging an arm and a leg. So you always have to balance profit and what's going to cost you. But the fact that you took a year to really make sure that the food was safe and clean and non-toxic and filled with nutrition and the right nutrition. Can you give me some examples of the hurdles that you could have cut corners on, but you chose not to because you honor us as your customers?
Sure. I think one of the very basic is the level of cleanliness, and that seems like that should be a no-brainer. But if anybody's ever worked in a kitchen for a restaurant, and then you clean up at night and you put stuff in the fridge. So if you take that and raise it to the level of you are going into a surgical unit with somebody who is having open heart surgery. So are you going to, how meticulous are you going to be about making sure that there are no germs and that there are no, there's no way that person's going to be harmed. And that's how our kitchen is run. And so we have whole days that we clean before, we clean after. It's a very time consuming and probably more expensive than most that, at the baseline you need to do. And then how we package things, some of it is proprietary, so I don't talk too much about it. I'm happy to talk off the air, but we went through a lot to make sure that our food is safe and that we have a good shelf life for it. We test our food. That's the other thing. And there's so many good companies out there that do this as well. I think that, and I do think that most entrepreneurs, they get up in the morning and they don't think, how can I rip people off? I think they're thinking, how can I pay my payroll? How can I, so there are some very tough decisions that somehow that people make, and, you can't always nail it and keep the doors open. And I think more times than not, that's what happens for people. And then there's a scope creep with those where they kind of snowball. And so we had a little bit of a luxury of having had a business and then having a little bit of time, where we could begin to make some decisions. But I think that there are so many people doing great work too. But we knew, and our co-founder and my partner, Lisa Lorimer, had such a strong background. And, there is not a more ethical business person that I know of. I mean, and anybody who has worked with her over a 30-year career will tell you that. And that is just who she is. And that's how, the whole organic bread, it was Squishy White Bread when she started her bread company here, in a goat shed essentially in Vermont. And then it became this national business. But it's built on that kind of, if you do the right thing. I mean, she wrote a book, about it, how, dealing with the tough stuff. How do you deal with these difficult decisions that entrepreneurs face, and to do it as ethically as you can, and to deal with the time sometimes, and how do you deal when there's conflict and you can't always do everything that you'd want to do 100%, just because we're all human. But for safety and to deliver for people what we said we're going to deliver, that's our bottom line. There's no sense being in business if we're not going to do that. Mm-hmm. And we're in our 50s. This was something that we could have had a much easier road going forward, but it matters to us. And so if we're going to do this for real, we really want to have an impact. There's no point at all in cutting a corner, because we gain nothing. Then we have a business that means nothing to us. And so,
Mm.
and it's not helping people. And that's really where we come from. I think we do good work. Our employees love us because we treat them well. We pay livable wages. We, give people benefits. We did that. Another decision we made early on, that it's a tough decision because that cuts right into your profit. But we said, this is, you ought to be able to have a vacation, buy a home, and not stress if you're in not an entry level job. And so we try and pay a livable wage, and we do pay a livable wage, and we give full benefits to people. So and those are the other parts of a company that matter to us, because it's they're people, and it's relationships, and that's why we do it at all.
I love to vote with my fork. It makes a really big difference.
That's a great way. That's a great way of saying it.
One of the first documentaries that helped me on this journey had a speech by the original founder of Whole Foods, and he said vote with your fork, and they outlined this change in the dairy industry, that years ago there was this weird hormone given to animals that then we would consume, and it wasn't good for us, it wasn't good for them. Was it like the HRR, whatever? I can't remember the name of the hormone, but it's on, basically, if you look at your milk now, if you look at all your dairy products now, there's this thing that says no, and then there's like HRR something something, no added hormones. And why is it that hormone was taken out of the dairy industry? Well, it was the consumer, and this was over 10 years ago, the consumer began to become educated and voted with their fork. And one of the largest buyers of dairy is Walmart.
Huh.
And I didn't know that, but Walmart's huge, because they have grocery stores, and Walmart, because they saw their customers didn't want to buy the dairy with that, they were like turning their noses up at it, that Walmart was one of the companies that helped to get this hormone taken out of the dairy, so their customers would keep buying the dairy. And that kind of shocked me, because you'd think it would have been like Whole Foods, or someone that actually cares about the environment or something like that, or cares about health. But basically it was about the profits. Like, hey, customers are not voting with their fork, and that's why I say vote with your fork. And I vote with my fork, and I'd rather pay 50 cents more for something non-GMO or organic or whatever. It's not a big deal. It's not going to break the bank. But you know what? I am, or local, like you, let's say, pay a 50 cents more for that bell pepper because the farmer 2 miles away grew it, rather than shipping it in from Chile or whatever. And that money, in the grand scheme of things, is not going to hurt that you paid a little bit more, but you just supported, and you just voted, you just said, yes, farmer, I want you to succeed, and I want you to keep, thriving as an organic, local business, for example. And so, if you can't afford it as a consumer, if you can't afford it, vote with your fork. Don't buy products the companies you don't believe in, the companies that are harming us, and buy products from the companies that are helping us. I love shopping at Costco. I feel like there's this little halo above my head when I go there, because Costco takes care of their employees. You talk to the employees, their badges say like, been here since 1999. You talk to those employees who've been there a long time, and ask them, like, how does Costco treat you versus Walmart, versus working at other companies? And you'll be really surprised. They are very happy, and they have good retention. Yeah, it's hard to work there. It's a warehouse. It's hard work, but the company pays better and values the employees. And I believe that every human on this planet deserves to be happy. And like you said, they deserves a living wage. And so, if someone can afford it, they should buy from MamaSezz, because you're supporting a company that supports your health and supports its employees. It's just like this win-win situation. There's no conflict of interest. It's all about, like, we want to help you because you want to help us, and you want to help others. So I'm just very congruent here in the amount of, your level of ethics is wonderful. I love it. Walk us through what it looks like to be a customer. So we go to the website. Now you've given us $15 off. That's really cool with the coupon code LTH. Listeners can go to learntoyourhealth.com/MamaSezz, use coupon code LTH, get $15 off, and they can check it out. They can try it for themselves. Walk us through. So someone goes to the website for the first time. What happens? What should they do?
Sure. So when you get to our homepage, you'll see that we have some featured bundles, which are probably our most popular meal bundle packages, and they're based on what most of the people are buying. So if it's a weight loss bundle or peak performance or a chef's choice, which is where we put together a variety of meals, and that you can have that on a subscription every week, every other week, every month, or just pause it and have it once. So you'll see that our initial products are there, or you can buy things a la carte or look at all of our specialty bundles. And so primarily, once you get to our collections pages, you'll see that we try and curate the food in ways that will serve you. So if you have a family, we have a family bundle and a meal plan, and so it makes it super easy. And you can just go to whatever one suits your need. So if you're alone and you just want meals just for me, that's great. If you want just breakfast, we have a breakfast bundle. Or if you want to just put together your own bundle, you can do that from all of our a la carte products. The easiest way is probably buying a curated bundle. And then you just, click, yes, I want this. And what you'll get is, you go through checkout, but when the food arrives, it'll arrive, if you order by 8 p.m. on a Sunday, it arrives the next Thursday or Friday. It arrives fresh because we make it all fresh. So this isn't like sitting in a warehouse and then we like pluck out what somebody bought. You order it, and then we're going to make it fresh that week for you and send it to you. And so it'll get to your house on a Thursday or Friday. It'll come in a box that is like a cooler box with ice. So you don't have to be home. FedEx will deliver it. And all of the meals are packaged, and they're center of your plate food. And so some companies have, they'll give you like a TV tray, like TV dinners that used to have, that had like a meat and then a salad and then like a dessert, and it's all on one plate. So that's not our model. We're much more encouraged kind of more engaging with your food. And so we will give you a bag. We have some things in stack bags. So a stack bag of lazy lasagna, that's 2 servings. So you take out your servings and you heat it up on the stove or microwave if you like to do that. And then you'll have your lazy lasagna. And we'll give you also suggestions of other ways, things you might want to add to it. And so we'll do that with every single product. But when you get them, they can go right from the box into your fridge, and they're ready to eat, or you can freeze them. And you can follow our suggested meal plan or mix and match it however you want. And you have meals that are based on what you need. So if you have a heart condition, we have a heart healthy bundle. If you have, you're a performance athlete or a weekend warrior and you want to not feel, the aches and pains of inflammation on a Monday, then you eat our bundle, and you'll bring down that inflammation, which is great, and it increases performance. We work with a lot of athletes who really do well with what we have. But some of our most popular ones are the Get Me Started, Keep It Going bundles, which are just kind of regular meals that are the staples of what you have in a kitchen when you eat plant-based, but that are time-consuming and kind of distracting to make. So we really thought about what are the things that you would replace the pizza and mac and cheese of when you're not plant-based, that kind of easy food that is really super fulfilling, and everyone's going to go, yeah, I want that. So those are what we want. We want to stock your kitchen with MamaSezz foods so that you'll always have those meals there, just like you always have, almond milk or whatever your other staples are. You always have your MamaSezz veggie burgers. You always have your MamaSezz, ricotta bake. You always have your MamaSezz marinara, because we make an amazing marinara tested by Italians, and that's what we do. We go with the people who really know it and say, does ours measure up? And if they're like, this is so lame, then we go back to the drawing board. And we've had a few of those. We've had a lot of failures. Oh my God.
Well, that's when you know you're succeeding, because I think you have to experiment in the kitchen.
Yeah.
To be able to adjust it. Now, marinara is typically vegan or plant-based anyway, but what you're saying is it's oil-free and it doesn't have, sugar in it. It doesn't have processed food in it. So you're
no preservatives.
No preservatives. Yeah. So you're really making like an authentic, real one.
It is like you just got it out of, like, somebody grabbed their stuff from their garden, and you know that difference. And then they put this thing together, and you're sitting outside, and you're eating, and it's so fresh, and like the taste just pops differently in your mouth, and your body knows, it just responds to it differently. And anybody who's had fresh food has had that experience, where there's just devoid of any of the other additives, preservatives, little chemicals, citric acids, little but it's organic citric acid, whatever that goes into food. When it doesn't have that, it tastes amazing, and your body responds differently. And that's the bar for our food, is that we just want it to have that fresh taste that you can, you open it up, you eat it, and you feel great. And it's easy. It's super easy. It had to be easy. We had to solve that problem.
Love it. Now what about people with allergies? Because you obviously are dairy-free and egg-free and gluten-free. Those are like some really, really common food allergies. But what if someone's allergic to corn, or they're autoimmune, so they're avoiding nightshades? Like, can they look at the ingredients, or do you have like a hypoallergenic package?
Yeah, you can look at it on the ingredients. All of our products have an ingredient panel, so that you can pull up and see. And we are, like you said, gluten-free, and we're not nut-free. So we tell people, if they say, hey, I have a nut allergy, we just say this, it would not be safe, even if you're having products that don't have nuts in them. We use cashews. We don't have peanuts and things like that. We use cashews. You still can be some cross contamination in a facility. So you just don't want to risk it. And we would much rather people not buy our food, not have to worry, and not have a reaction to some, that nobody could foresee. So we just tell people no with the nut allergy, if it's a serious nut allergy, because those are a big deal. And nightshades, we do have some people who are really kind of growing in an understanding of how that can be a sensitivity. We haven't parsed it out. That might be a good idea for us to do. But you can definitely look through and see which ones fit your profile. All the nutritionals are right there.
Yeah, maybe come up with an autoimmune package that's focused, like, with a lot of anti-inflammatory foods and spices, and then no nightshades, and or like no or low grains, because that's and that's temporary because we can heal autoimmune disease. If you go to an MD, most of them will say you have it for the rest of your life. You have to be on XYZ medication for the rest of your life. It's not true. I've interviewed dozens of people who've reversed and no longer have autoimmune disease. You can reverse it. And it does take being very diligent with your diet. And there is a diet, it's almost like a cleanse, like a detox that you go through, where you really focus on not eating any foods that trigger your immune system, but also healing the gut. And so for some people, temporarily, they need to eat like an autoimmune, like grain-free, nightshade-free, high antioxidant diet for about a year. And then also eating fermented foods to help heal the gut. And they just go through this, transition. But I've met so many people that after eating that way, they're able to slowly add back foods. They've already healed their gut, and now their body doesn't react to grains anymore, and their body doesn't react to nightshades anymore. So, but it is, there's a mountain of evidence suggesting that we can use food as a major component to healing autoimmune condition. So I love that you're so focused on creating different packages specifically for people that are looking to heal something. So you have so people with allergies can easily go through and see the ingredients. You have different packages for weight loss, for heart health, for athletes, and you also have family packages. What about kids? So if I were to buy the, like, how would I, or how would one of the listeners with kids, who wants to like take some of the stuff that you're sending and put it in their lunches, because it's just going to save them, because the amount of stress I have when I have to pack lunches in the morning.
It's true. It's
So
true.
do you have
It's a lot.
packages for helping families to pack lunches for
Yeah.
their
What
kids?
do you pack for lunch? Sure. Yeah. So I have two kids. I pack their lunch every day, and it is again a little bit of a planning, but the foods. What we say is kids might not like all plant-based foods because they can be sometimes picky, but they usually like one, two, three, four, and so we'll identify those. And in the family bundle, we've got some really kid-friendly items that the kids love the lasagna. They love. We have a little veggie loaf that the kids love, and it's like little burgers. You can make burgers out of it, or meatballs, if you want to. Um, and so the kind of kids even like our chili because it's not hugely spicy. Frittata kids like. We have and this is everyone loves this particular product. It's a high protein breakfast bar, and it's like a blondie brownie, but it's no processed sugar. It's made of beans and chickpeas, and so
Mm.
it is like the go-to. My kids love it because it gives them that steady burn. It gives it, there's enough sweet so they're like yum, and it's a treat. But it's not a bar filled with junk, and it tastes like this really yummy brownie, not as sweet. And you get a nice steady burn. They absolutely love that, and that's a great thing to pack because your kids are getting protein, they're getting all these nutrients, and they're getting that feeling like they got a really cool treat, and they did. And so that's one that we pack for kids too.
I love it. Is it sweetened with dates or fruit, or how's that work?
Yeah, this one is dates. Yeah, so
Love
dates
it.
and yep. So and
Nice.
we make our own date syrup. So you get the extra nutrients because they're not skinned, and so
I love
yeah.
dates. It's such
They
a
are. They're delicious.
They're so great to cook with. I visited a date farm once in California, just a few hours outside of Las Vegas, and it's fascinating. And they're beautiful fruit that grow, in the desert. They're beautiful, and it's just they grow in a place where no other life seems to exist. And then these trees pop out of nowhere in an oasis, and they're able to just make the most beautiful, sweet fruit, and they're so nutritious, and they're so great for energy and for baking and for replacing sugar. So I love that. That's really cool that you guys make your own date syrup. Oh, it's very exciting because so many listeners are just don't have time. They don't have time. They want to eat healthy. It's also so overwhelming, especially if someone's facing a health issue, or they worried about they're having to cook for many different people. I mean, there's just so many concerns, and you really take care of them. They just, like you said, by Sunday night they just click. Okay, I want this, and then it arrives on Thursday, and then that's their. It takes care of the majority of their food for a week. Um, do they become? Can they become subscribers, and it just
You
automatically
can.
arrives, or
Yep.
how does that work?
Yeah, we found that, we really resisted subscriptions for a while, but we just found that our customers kept asking for it. So we said, okay. And, but we make it super easy to subscribe for whatever cadence works for you. So if it's weekly or biweekly or monthly or once a week, and then you don't want to order for another 2 months, you have really a lot of control over how it comes. But to be able to reorder the things that you liked easily, and just have that kind of, okay, on Fridays, my meals for the week show up. I know what I'm going to be eating. I have this great meal plan. And so that part of my life I don't have to think about, and I can focus on all the other cool things that I like to do, or have to do in some cases. So that is how it works. Our a la carte can also be on subscription. If you have some a la carte items you want on subscription, you can do that as well.
Very cool. Is there anything I haven't asked that you want
You
to
know,
answer?
you've been amazing. I'm just thinking like people are so lucky to have, because I know your entrepreneurs know that there's a lot of heartache and there's a lot of passion and awesome things about doing things on your own. But there's also, as you referenced earlier, there's a fair amount of stress and can be hard. And to do the work that you're doing and bringing really high quality messages to people, and you vet people, and you do the work and you spend the time. It's really a wonderful service that you're offering to people, and I'm sure you have thousands and thousands of fans who know that as well. But I just want to thank you for that, because it does matter, and to be able to bring, you have a great sense of humor, and to be able to bring this message to people in a way that is fun and enjoyable, and you're like, it's not so hard, that's kind of where eat your fruits and veggies, go outside and play, your life will be better. And that's our motto. It's just like, this is Mama's Kitchen. We're just going to take care of you. We're going to give you what you need. Don't worry about it. And, as long as you tell us what you need, we'll give you exactly what you need. And we have that affection, and you have that same sense. You're doing work it's noble work. And so I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Meg. The feeling is mutual. I'm definitely passionate about spreading this information, because you don't even know how good it feels until you do it. And I was just constantly shocked while I was making the transition to eating more and more plants. I did it over a period of time, whereas my husband just did it overnight. But he said to me about 3 to 5 days into being vegan, and again, he came from a carnivore diet. His entire life was mostly meat, very few plants. Most meals were only meat, and that was my husband. And then he just woke up and said, I'm never eating meat again. And that came out of nowhere, because he had a joke. He would say, I eat vegans daily, was his joke, because cows are vegan, right? So, and he actually pretty much only ate beef. It was just beef, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and coffee. And that was his diet his entire life. And like energy drinks, and ice cream, and that was his diet when I met him. So, but he came up, it was his decision. And about 3 to 5 days into it, somewhere in the first week, he turned to me while he was eating, and he said to me, in all dead serious, he said, if you had told me that this food, plant-based food, would taste this good, I would have done this years ago. He couldn't, and he's constantly in awe of how it tastes like no oil, no salt, no sugar. I'll use Bragg's liquid aminos or something, or we use seasoning. It doesn't taste like tasteless. There's salt, naturally occurring salt in the food, but it's not I'm not adding tons and tons of table salt. But it's no oil, no processed food, no sugar, tons of plants on his plate, and it tastes amazing. It tastes really good. And so he's always in awe of how good it tastes. And he always jabs me a bit, and he goes why do we go to, because once in a while we'll go to a restaurant, of course, vegan. And he goes, why do we go, we just paid $50. Why do we go out when the next day we're going to be eating lunch or dinner? And he goes, this tastes so much better than that. Why did we even go out? And, true. Because that food was covered in oil and covered in, a bunch of other stuff. Exactly. And it actually, it's nice to go out to dinner, but it's never as good as real, whole food, plant-based, no processed food. And so we neuroadapted. It does take a little bit of time to neuroadapt to it, because, when we're used to potato chips or whatever. But I can't believe how good I feel, and I want the world to know. Also, I tried being vegetarian before, and I felt horrible. But what was I eating? I was eating vegetarian subs, vegetarian pizza. I was eating just processed food. And so a lot of people, I think, have maybe had an experience with not eating meat or eating some form of vegetarianism, and it really failed for them. And then they say, oh, well, vegetarian's not healthy, and I didn't feel good, and meat makes me feel better. So it's don't even associate whole food plant-based with vegan or vegetarian. It's it's totally different. It's cutting out processed food. And even if you are still eating some meat and you're just adding more and more plants, because that's what I did. It's like
That's great. That's
learned.
a really good strategy.
Thank you. I learned from Dr. Joel Furman. I had him on the show, and his thing is the nutritarian approach. So, like, if you're still going to eat meat, okay, eat more and more plants, more plants, more plants, more plants. And it crowds out. It gets, the plate becomes fuller and fuller with nutrient dense foods that heal your body. And then eventually I would have meatless Mondays, right? And then I'd have I just have one meat meal a day. And then all of a sudden it became like one meat meal a week. And then all of a sudden I just stopped. It just stopped. And I turned around and went, it's been weeks since I've had meat and I actually don't feel like I need it. I actually feel better without it. And the occasions when I did have meat, the next day I felt horrible.
Right.
So it's really just listen to your body, eat more plants, eat less processed food, eat more real food, and keep eating more real food, and keep noticing you feel better eating more real food. And I'm not here to tell people that they don't ever have to eat meat again, because I think that's very threatening to some people. I am saying, though, whatever diet you prescribe to, eat more real food, more plants. And if you want the extra support, I think that the MamaSezz food delivery service, because it is so focused on healthy food in a way that's going to decrease your stress and give you more time. Oh my gosh, I just think your business is wonderful, and I love it. You're giving our listeners $15 off using coupon code LTH. I think that's fantastic. Of course, the links to everything that Meg Donahue does is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast at learntruehealth.com. Meg, is there any final advice you'd like to leave with us to wrap up today's interview?
Maybe an observation is that that if you're on the fence, then and not sure, or people in your life, is that what I found has worked best is a very compassionate approach to other people, and to give them really good food and let them experience it. And like you said, it's very similar to what Joel Furman said, that as you change, the things that are not good for you will naturally go away if you are consciously adding more good things to your plate. And that's really our ethos: is eat your fruits and veggies, go outside and play, enjoy your life. Life, it's spectacular. And to have the energy like you did when you were a kid, like when you just got up from dinner and then you went outside and you played because you felt so good. You didn't have to go lay on the couch like, you had eaten a possum or something, and had to digest it. That's the feeling that we know. And that's, Ashley, that and we want people to have, is that just that joy of life where food is a part of it and enhances it and gives you energy to really experience life to the fullest.
Brilliant. I love it. Eat your fruits and veggies, go outside and play. We'd say that to our kids, and then we should start saying it to us, to ourselves.
Go have fun.
Go have fun. Eat your carrots and go have fun. And you're giving away a package that's worth $169, I believe, to one lucky listener. And I'm going to make sure I add this to the beginning of the show as well, and put it in the show notes. So one lucky listener, and so I want all listeners to go to the Learn True Health Facebook group, and we're going to put a post there after this episode goes live, asking what you loved about today's episode. What did you learn? What did you love? And why you want to be the winner to try MamaSezz. Cool. And and then we'll pick at random. We'll pick a lucky winner, and that will be really awesome. Thank you so much for giving every listener $15 off using the LTH coupon code. I think that's really cool. And thank you for choosing one lucky winner to receive a package. This has been awesome. It's been wonderful having you on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been beautiful to be here. I really appreciate it.
Be sure to go to MamaSezz.com and use the coupon code LTH to get $15 off. And visit the Learn True Health Facebook group so that you could be one of the lucky winners to get the $169 package of delicious, organic, whole food, plant-based food.